This is Making Light. Julie Hurt and Kate Fogger are soul-level intuitives and animal communicators. This show is about us sharing our experiences in the hope it will help others along their path. So let's go make some light. Hello everybody, I'm Kate Fogger, this is Julie Hurt, and together we are Making Light. So this week, if you've been following the new and improved, is it improved? Maybe more focused, new and more focused Making Light, we've been looking at a theme, an overarching theme for orcas of being overwork. And each week we're going to look at it in the context of one of the negative beliefs, of which there are 4. The first one that we looked at last week was unlovable. This week we'll be looking at not worthy. And then the next 2 will be not good enough and not safe, supported and protected. And in the soul level coaching, and indeed in life itself, even if you don't go near soul level coaching, you can look at most negative beliefs, I think, will fall into one of those 4 categories. There are overlaps and there are nuances, but they all fall into those 4 categories. So it's actually quite a good way to divvy them up. And what we do in soul level coaching is we look at your workarounds, that's your behaviors that you do to avoid the feelings of that negative belief. So the behaviors we'll talk about, we'll mention it as a workaround. Don't worry if you don't get the language. Basically, these are 4 negative beliefs. We all have them one way or the other, and most of the things we feel fall into those. Basically anything that doesn't feel good, really. So Julie and I were very well prepped last week for this. This week we've been chatting amongst ourselves and we haven't done any prep at all. So we'll be interested to see how this goes. So I have obviously millions of evidence of overwork. And just to clarify, overwork doesn't necessarily mean that you're productive, right? It just means the act of working. Because I would say I've done a lot of overwork and very little production at all. I also have 100 million episodes of Not Worthy, but whether I have actually pieced them together, I don't know. Have you got anything? Actually, we were talking about earlier, was that element of overwork? Of
what we were talking earlier today, or what we were talking about?
Are you talking about reacting to a last minute request from somebody?
Yeah. So sorry. Of course, the lawn crew just shows up as we start this. So if there's extra noise in the background, everyone, sorry. Yeah. So I will just back up real quick though and say not worthy is my favorite negative belief. Only it's because it's the one that has been coming to the forefront for me for the last several years. So to give everybody an understanding of we're all working on them at all points in time, but some just kind of rear their heads more forcefully. So for me, not worthy has been a big one. So I just got this last minute request to do something that had already been taken care of and per a timeline. So I checked, I love a timeline. I love a checklist, love a to-do list. You've got to put, and that's another, there's so many little things in here now that I think about it. So there's, the fact that I love a timeline, the fact that I love a to-do list is absolutely for me a workaround of not feeling worthy, because if I will make sure I get things done on time. I will actually make sure they get done early so that I exceed one's expectations. I will do all the things on my to-do list. I will pile that to-do list so full. There's no physical possible way a human being could accomplish it all. And yet I will try and kill myself physically in the process.
And then you'll feel shit when you can't.
And then I feel crap. Yeah, I used to back in the day. So since we've done this work, some of this has loosened its hold on me, if you will. Not that I'm beholden to it, but I've been able to let things go. I'm going to put it in more active voice, which is also something of not worthy, as I put things in passive voice so that it's being done to me because why am I anyway? So when I was younger, in my 30s, and even to some degree and 40s, my weekend, I would make a to-do list like this long. It was budget, laundry, cleaning, there was no rest in there. And I worked a job that was really demanding to the point where I had heart problems, right? So anyway, and I remember once I was I was doing laundry my brother-in-law was over, he lived nearby, and he looked at me and he said, do you ever sit down on the weekends? And I was like, well, no, there's always something to do. Like, I look at all the things, and I had 3 dogs at the time, all this stuff. Anyway, but I remember the weekend was judged good or bad based on the number of checks I had on that to-do list. And as one ages, as well as when one moves into opening up, more towards expansion, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, one realizes, does it really matter? Because you physically can't handle it. I mean, I can't do the same amount of stuff I used to do. And I also mentally don't want to. Like, I need time to walk my dog. I need time to read my books. I'm actually finding it's wanting me to slow down even more. I got all these messages from nature yesterday about slowing down even more. And I'm like, seriously? I thought I was going pretty slow. So anyway, so that's that. But yes, I finished all this task. I finished it on time, before time, on time, perfectly, taking it on, all the things. And this morning, the direction changed. So past the timeline, the direction changed, which in my world, that's like, you can't do that. Why would you do that? You've already said, now you can't. That's not the plan. So it's like, so that kicked in, like, well, that was the plan now. Like, why? And I agreed, not a problem. I mean, ultimately, it's really not a big deal. Who cares, right? It's not a big deal. However, it triggered that, well, it triggered the whole resistance of that's not the plan. Don't do blah, blah, blah. And it also triggered my competitiveness, because I could have said, well, today is my busiest day of the week. I don't know if I'm going to get to it until, I don't know, 1:30, I mean, like several hours from now. And I just didn't want to trigger that someone else would step in and complete it for me. So it triggered this competitiveness and like, no, this is mine. You can't have this. I do this well, like this whole, and it's like, and so you and I were talking about this beforehand, and to a large degree, I can look at it, which is so cool from a hawk perspective. We're gonna come back. I can look at it and, yeah, okay, I see it all, right? And I can laugh. Two things. I'm studying astrology with Dr. Jennifer Freed, and we talked about negative beliefs in terms of the 9th house this last week. And she said part of it is when you can see these things and laugh at them, they release their hold on you. And I'm like, oh, I laugh at that all the time. The other thing is August animal lessons that, I do animal lessons every month based on the readings that I had the month prior. And at the same time I was formulating all that, I had 2 juvenile hawks circling over my house, screaming the whole time. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. What's the deal? And they were saying, be observant at what's going on and where your negative beliefs are popping in so that you can better determine what it is that you want. So just now I was just like, oh, look, the hawk is calling in, because when you're observant of your negative belief and you can laugh at it, so you can call in hawk medicine for that. That was a long story. And there you go. All the things. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's still like, you're aware of this, you're aware of your inclinations, you're aware of your negative beliefs, you know that somebody else could step in. I don't understand why you're in competition with them, because, isn't it? But it's like we get into what we call workarounds. You get into these habits of behavior that are, I wouldn't say they're compulsive, but they're just instantaneous. Yeah. So yes, you can laugh at all these, but it didn't stop you going through the whole reaction, did it?
No, it did. No, although I will say this isn't the first time this has happened. So when it happened this time, when I first saw it, I went, oh, busiest day. And then I laughed, because then I realized, and this was all before we were on camera, I was actually just getting out of the shower, and I was like, and I laughed, and I'm like, oh, this is funny. Here we go again. And then I sat there for a minute and thought, I could respond. This is conscious choice. So when you get through, when you figure out your workarounds and all this type of stuff, you get to the step of conscious choice. You then have the ability to say, well, I could respond and say, not a problem. I could say, hey, I'm not going to get to this. I could ignore it altogether and let someone else just absolutely step in. That was not an option for me, because that workaround of nope, I own this. I have to take care of it. That stepped in too. But at least I had that moment. So I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back, because at least at that point, instead of just reacting without being mindful and aware, I was able to just go, huh, and just sit there for just a second and quickly weigh the options and like, no, I can do, and then you can do this. This isn't that big of a deal. And then I just played with all the stuff that came up with it. Yeah.
You named the workaround though.
Yeah. Which one? There were several. Which one?
Which one? So I suppose one of them is that reaction of defensiveness. That's a workaround, isn't it? How dare you? I've got all this sorted out. Oh, now this is your fault. Victimhood, all of that. That's a workaround. I get that a lot. It's like, oh my God, you've thrown my life into disarray. Things will never be the same again. I'll never get over this. How dare you? And
Yeah.
it's really like, really, like if you just fucking taken a breath, Kate, it would be fine. But like, let's think what the other one was. Well, we don't have to go into that.
Yeah.
So the reason that you react like that, other than your workarounds, is because you're busy, right? If that had happened on a day when you were not busy, would you have reacted differently?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, I might have like done, I mean, to all truth be told, still the notion of this was planned. I already did it perfectly. I did it so great, which in and of itself is all not worthy. And we should probably even take a step back as to when not worthy kicked in for us. But all of that. So that's all to me buttoned up nicely and with a little bow on top. And now it's being unraveled. That right there is like, bing, that's a thing, right? So even if this was Tuesday or Thursday, not so busy days like today is jam-packed, I still may have gone, really? Like, this is off plan.
But what's interesting to me is you, as I would not give it to somebody else. Like, why not?
No, because it's mine, Kate. It's mine.
Do you think it's that?
It's that's part of the feeling. Yeah. I mean, this role, and I kind of I don't know if we've talked about this role of peacemaker for me, or if I know I've written about it, but this role of peacemaker, which stems to the beginning event, which I'll in a second. I have a lot of hold still on this identity of peacemaker, which I'm actually learning there's some other cool things about it, but we're not going to get into that today because I don't even understand it. However, here's the story. So when you go through soul level intuitive coaching, as you know, the guides say, okay, here's the negative belief we're working on, not worthy. When did it start for me? It started at the age of 2 for me. My dad would travel nonstop. I might have brought this up last week. I don't remember. My dad used to travel every single week for work. He was a traveling salesman. He would come home, leave on Monday, come home on Friday. Mom, by then, had me and my tiny sister. And so when Dad would walk in the door, I would go, Dad. And he would greet me first and not her. And that would cause resentment, jealousy, pissed off, anything, right, from my mom. But I would feel that. And even though my dad would try to mitigate it, I was the one that stepped in the middle and went, hey, look at me. It's okay. Everything's fine. See, I've got to like, you're good. I'm going to back off now. You guys, like, took on all this energy, in addition to the fact that I was the first grandchild for my paternal grandmother, who was very Catholic, and my mother was not Catholic. And so my dad was the first one to get married. All these things, I brought the family together, or so I'm told, and I was the peacemaker for that too. So I have this whole thing about peacemaker all around me. Anytime anything's ever like, oh no, I'll figure it out. I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll help everybody. I don't help myself, but I keep everybody else happy. So that's also
I'm a peacemaker too, apparently, but my counselor had another word for it as well.
Oh yeah?
Scapegoat. So the scapegoat is one who takes the fall.
Yes, I did that at work all the time. I would totally take the blame for everything.
But I don't even know, it's not necessarily you taking the blame. The way because I wasn't really, I sort of know, you know, you think you know what a scapegoat is, and then you have to go and look it up.
Yeah.
But it's also the blame is put onto you as well. So it's not just taking the blame, but the blame is put onto you. You're the scapegoat.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, okay. Yeah.
But I mean, I see another side to that as well, about you not wanting. So if I said to you, why don't you give it to someone else? You didn't say, but you could easily have said, yeah, but I know that Miranda's really busy, or I know that Susan's got a lot on and she might not read her emails until 3 o'clock. Or, you know, you would then be defending why those other people couldn't pick up the slack. And why?
Yeah.
Which is you feeling not worthy of standing your boundaries and going, well, actually, I don't have time to do this today. I'm going to rely on somebody else. And that's a very common thing for women. And I'm reading that book. I'm so angry, Julie.
She's talking about On Our Best Behavior from Elise Lunan. Women, you must read this book. Yeah.
So angry. Like I knew. So basically the book, which we've referred to pretty much every week since you got it, is about On Our Best Behavior, the price women pay to be good. And she goes through the 7 deadly sins and looks at each of them in context. But I'm at, where am I? Done, pride, envy. I don't know which one it is, but it's, oh no, it's pride. This is true of
Oh, you forgot sloth. Sloth's the first one, right?
Yes, I've done sloth, envy, pride. So this is just a little detour, but since we're there, about how women don't like other women who are, and it's the way she uses the word out there, which I think such a good word, phrase rather. And then the other one, she says that she's all that. And you just know exactly what she means, because I bristle at women who are all that, unless they're like really fucking cool. And, you know, a particular type of woman I imagine I could be, they're cool. But if they have slight deviations of or combinations of that don't fit with my ideal cool, then they're just ridiculous, and how dare they, and who do they think they are? And reading it, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we do this to women, that women are not allowed to step up. So anyway, I suppose what I was getting at there is this behavior. It's not just that bit, but the whole thing describes, we don't like to disturb anyone. We don't feel able to say, I can't do that. So this is women with women. This isn't even you answering to a male boss or something. This is women to women to women. And yet our behaviors run so deep that you don't feel worthy of going, really sorry, I can't actually do that right now. You don't feel worthy of inconveniencing someone else at the, you know, in order to save your own expense, if you like. Just all that. And it's so insidious. It's not, I'm just looking at so many things now, and I was like saying to I said to Gary, I was like, you've got to watch it. I said, because I'm reading about the patriarchy and I'm really angry. He just said, you take your feminine piss and fuck off. He was joking, of course, but you know, the point remains, whenever I mention it now, anything else. And here's another thing, and he's just like, not interested, take your patriarchy. Because men don't, I mean, he is joking, but the reality is he's not interested. It's of no interest to him. No. I mean, he's not, Gary's not an alpha male or toxic masculine or anything like that. But he still enjoys certain privilege, and it's tough tits, mate. You know, that's the way things are. That's the way they are.
Yeah.
But oh my God.
Yeah.
Horrible. It's horrible to read it and acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. No, there, as far as not worthy goes, and not worthy goes as far as overwork. Yeah, there's I'll say it this way. I know that there are many things that I do from a workload perspective to keep me busy, so that, because part of overwork as a workaround of being not worthy is if I stay busy, I don't have to deal with my shit. And the more, what's so interesting to me too, as I look back on this whole process, you know, one of the first things that really happened was Lucas broke my leg, which took me out of the office. This was before COVID. And I would easily get my work done, my paid work done in a couple of hours that normally would take an 8-hour day because I didn't have the interruptions. I didn't have to, you know, go to get coffee and every, you know, I didn't have to do all the extraneous stuff. I could focus, get my stuff done, make my calls, do the emails. And then I had all this time on my hands, which actually I will say, now that I look back at that, I actually went into like, I would go down into a depression because it was like, oh, my brain was then like, my brain didn't have something to keep it busy. And I actually started dealing with my stuff. And at the same time, I started Googling like different spiritual teachers and even things that Oprah had brought up way back in the day, like Carolyn Mace and whatnot. And then I found Danielle, and that's a whole to went on that track and whatnot, our teacher, animal communication teacher. But yeah, I mean, when I look back at the moments when it was time to let go of overwork, or at least reduce it a little bit, because to let go of it completely, that's such a shock. That's not how humans are built. But a little chip here and a little chip here. And then like when I got COVID earlier this year, which was oddly enough at the same astrological time as I was supposed to slow down, according to, I followed Chani Nicholas. Anyways, and it was like, no, beginning of the year, don't do anything. Full month of January, don't do anything. And I got COVID and I was forced to not do anything. It was delicious. It was infuriating, but it was delicious at the same time. And then yesterday we got these signs too, Lucas and I did, of slowing down even more. And I'm like, really? Like I've let go of the board. I've let go of other stuff. Like, what else do I, okay. Yeah.
That's how I feel. It's like I still feel busy, not mental busy or anything like that, but I still sort of question like, oh, well, what am I supposed to be doing today? Am I going to have time? If somebody said, can you do such and such, or ask me out to do a social event, I'm sort of like, you know, there's still less sort of underlying fire alarm going off in my head going, oh, I'm sure you've got something you should be doing. So I mean, I've slowed down a lot, but I still feel busy. And what's interesting is the less I do, or the less commitments I have, my feeling of overwork doesn't really reduce. Because I'm still, I think it's something that comes, that's not the right, I'm saying this the wrong way around. It's the law of attraction thing. Your feeling of overwork is nothing to do with what physical things you have on your plate. It is obviously, there is an effect of the physical environment, but a feeling of overwork comes from the inside. You create that, and then that's what, so, and then you fill your day with stuff, and that's what overwork is. Like what I'm saying is the external pressures may have gone away, but I've still found stuff to fill my day. I still am busy. I still have things I have to do. There's still this sort of underlying urgency to get things done, because, and this is what's interesting about Eva Baronius describing overwork as a stress response.
Yes.
So when I guess it is, because I think I am dealing with my shit, but obviously, but there is this element of when you get stressed, my tendency, and I think yours is too, is to go do something, because then I'm like, I am now achieving, I'm worthy, I am a productive, a contributing member of society. So this is all subconscious, this isn't consciously, but when I'm busy, even if it's fucking trivia, you know, spreadsheet that doesn't, you know, working out how much electricity we've actually used, and, you know, because I don't trust the bills that come, you know, something like that. I can get sucked into a spreadsheet and I can spend what was I doing yesterday? I can spend 4 or 5 hours in a spreadsheet, you know, because I'll find some little flaw in it and I'll have to hunt it down, even though it's only 2p. It's like not about the 2p, it's like, where is the mistake? You know, it's like, I don't understand why my sums are wrong, you know, that sort of thing. Well, I was doing something yesterday and I was like, oh, fuck, I could spend a whole morning doing this. It's like, when you're in this state, and this is law of attraction, when you're in this state, even though I'm going out of my way to clear my decks, whenever I go to do something, so I would have been doing shopping or something on Tesco's, and then something will come up that will require me to go and do something else, that will require me to go and do something else. And suddenly, before I know it, I've got a chain of 7 tasks that all have to be accomplished, and then I have to backtrack to my original task. Do you find yourself doing that?
I find myself doing that when I'm wandering around the house. Like I went to go do something, and on the way, like say for example, I went to go do laundry, which is downstairs, right? So I go, I see what probably sparks with, I see an errant sock. My husband's really good at using the house as his closet. Love you, Brad, but so wherever he undresses is where the piece of clothing stays. So I might have seen an errant sock and then think, well, I'm just going to walk it downstairs to the laundry bin. So when I do laundry, and then along the way, I see that there's other things like the chair at the table is not put back, and I start straightening up, and then I forget why I actually have this sock in my hand because I've gotten so distracted by all of it. Yeah, that's a big deal. I think, and I know, like too, for us, kind of take a tangent, was part of not worthy early on in these careers of ours. You and I would talk about not worthy also showing up as not contributing, thinking that we're not contributing to the household. And we would be out of our minds trying to prove to someone else that even though the money isn't the same as it was, we are still worthy of having this downtime. Like we desperately wanted the downtime and desperately wanted the reconfiguration. We had a hard, you and I remember just talking about from a money perspective, but even just trying to justify, I do the laundry, I do the cooking, I do all these things, I take care of the dog, I do all this stuff. See, I'm still contributing to the household. It just might not be in money. And I remember that, like that to me was another, we talked about that for a couple of weeks at least. Yeah.
Still a really big thing for me. And in fact, I did actually ask Gary if he could contribute more so that I can contribute a bit less, because obviously I'm just eating into my savings.
Mm-hmm.
And actually he agreed, you know, because and why shouldn't he really? And then I go into this, like I'm scared to look in the bank account to see if he actually has or not, because I don't want to have to ask him again. And then I go into is it really fair? Is it fair for me to, you know, and then I start doing sums in my head. Well, I used to earn more than him. I used to put £300 a month in more than him, and that was for 10 years. How does that count? Is it, do you know, it's like I'm still like trying to justify it, because I don't feel like a worthy partner. Like, you know, all this about marriage, you know, is very much, I think, a partnership, as I've said, rather than this unconditional nonsense, love bollocks, whatever it is, you know. And it's am I worthy of being, I mean, it's not like he's supporting me, but am I worthy of paying a little bit more? Is that, you know, then I go into is it fair? And I think that's Kate being fair, because I am a very fair person. Why am I so fair? Why? Because this is all part of my, I realize I've just seen that just there. It's unworthiness as well. It's like, well, if it's fair, then it's not about this intangible worth of someone being loved or cherished for who they are. If it's fair, then it's all been worked out and it's quantifiable. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. If
fair,
it's fair,
fair, we can put in a box and say, well, I deserve to be here.
yeah.
You know,
If it's fair, it's black and white. Yeah.
all the touchy-feely stuff about, well, what value do I, oh, that makes me want to cry. What value do I have as a person?
If it's fair, defined externally of you, right? If there is a definition of fair to which we stride and which we abide by, right? Then it removes the, I don't want to say like responsibility on us, but we get to step back and get back in that passive voice. Yeah. If it's fair, then I know what I'm supposed to achieve. It then also takes away, if I know what fair is, I don't have to deal with how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the universe wants us, or the divine animals, everybody wants us to understand. How do you feel about that? Because fair, there is, even though, you know, you looked at the thing for scapegoat, you know, and there's no this definition thing. There may be a definition, it's interesting too. Elise Lunan does this whole thing on Instagram and I love it. And she even has it in the book, The Etymology of a Word. She takes the word in English currently, in American English at that, and then she breaks it down and takes it back to its root is what it really meant. And you can see how it gets completely can get completely misconstrued, because we can't stick to a definition, because for each one of us, we're either going to manipulate it to our favor or not completely understand it or whatever. We all get caught up in something, and that's a whole other thing. So there is no fair. It can't be.
But, yeah, but it's like you say, it's a shield almost. It's like if I believe this is fair, I don't have to poke any deeper. You know, I can just say, well, that's fair, because then we don't have to go into my self-worth.
Right.
Oh, you see, I'm still struggling with that concept that people are, I mean, I can see it for everybody else except me. That, you know, the idea that we are valuable simply by being who we are. I still can't quite embrace that feeling for myself.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, you can see it, because if you couldn't see it, you wouldn't be having this conversation. But yeah.
And you know what it's like. You have a client or a session with somebody and you know you've changed their life. You know that you've brought some joy or a chink of light in, and you think, well, isn't that worth, how much is that worth?
Yeah.
In monetary terms. I'm actually getting very sad. Is it the book, or has it just been sort of general observation? Just how everything in our society now is about what it's worth financially. Like, it just feels like there's no that's it, we gave up Sky, right? Because Sky have been diddling the prices up and up and up, and then every time we have the conversation, it's been going on on and off for 15 years.
Tell people what Sky is. I know what it is. It's a British.
Do you not have Sky? So Sky's a satellite TV, but they also provide the broadband, and we still pay for landlines, which I don't know if you do, and they do packages with mobile phones and everything. I mean, they're massive. And they do a lot of premium channels. Sports, Sky Sports is a big one, and for British sports, but like, we don't have any of those premium channels. We have like the Discovery. So why do we spend it? Why are we paying this? And we go through or abandon off the this and off the that. So then you actually end up going, well, okay, it may be a massive bill, right? It tells me my internet connection is unstable. That's because we just dropped Sky.
Oh yeah, well, and you've been dropping, as you've talked about this, you've started to freeze a little bit here and there.
Sky's cutting us off. So they do it so that actually all you're actually paying for the TV. And now, of course, because it's HD, and now we've got Ultra HD, and that's £4 here and £4 here. And of course, if you've got why are you paying extra for HD? It's been around for 100 years. Like, you can't actually, anyway. But it's all these little things, and we try and stop with Sky. But then when you actually look at it, you go, well, actually, we had to, if we stop that, then we'd lose all of these benefits. So every month we go through this, and eventually we're like, right, enough. So we've bought a different cable that goes to satellite, and we've got rid of Sky. And I can't remember where I'm going with this. Oh, that's right. So now we're left with normal TV, which has adverts. A lot of Sky does, but on Sky you're able to record, and so you can fast forward at least through the adverts. So now we're going through this, and I'm so it goes apoplectic if we have to watch adverts. So I actually paid for channel 4, is the All 4, which is one of our programs that we watch, and you can pay. Have I died? Have you died? Has anyone died? You just frozen.
Now you're back. Channel 4.
Everything in our society is about money.
Yes.
Everything is about what advertising revenue can I squeeze out of this, that, and the other. So I've actually also done a YouTube premium, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So we're actually, everything we're saving on Sky, we're going to end up paying, because now you're paying 15 different people instead of just one. But it just becomes, it's like advertising so insidious. It's everywhere. It's like you can't escape it. And I try to think of a utopian world where that doesn't happen. You think it in a capitalist society that could never exist, could it?
Well, in a capitalist society, the not paying for not having
Advertising.
Well, no, because in order to keep capitalism, you have to continually fuel consumerism. Yeah.
And all of consumerism is about not worthy from start to finish.
Yeah.
So you're either not good enough or you're not worthy, and you can't out your car's not, if you don't have this, then you're not worthy of that, or all of it. It's just, and I'm just, and I'm trying to think, how do I escape this? It's actually opening up a much bigger thing for me about where can I live where I don't have to be a part of this. And I don't know where that, if ever.
It's funny, I've been playing with that actually. How long can I go without having to buy something? And I don't necessarily put food in that, but I do also, because when I go to the grocery store, I'm mindful where we create a menu planning thing, and then we buy what we need for the week. Much like when I lived in Germany, you would buy almost every day what you needed for that day. And you didn't have refrigerators. Like, we had a tiny refrigerator when I lived in Germany. So we didn't even have the big things that we do here, where I can store. Armageddon could come and I could have a generator and my fridge would still work. And yes, that's what we're supposed to do. I don't have that stuff. Anyway, but what's interesting to me is this year we bought a share of fresh produce from the farm that's 2 blocks from my house. So every Tuesday afternoon, I go and I get the stuff that's allotted to me. And I'm getting produce I've never eaten in my life. Fennel, didn't know anything about it. Patty pans,
I could have done with fennel, actually. I forgot to buy it last week.
Oh, it's delicious. It's delicious.
Celery and apple. What was it? It was a smoked mackerel, fennel, celery and apple salad.
Ooh, that sounds
yeah.
Oh, nice. Can we post the recipe to that in the notes?
Are we allowed to do that?
Sure, as long as you give it credit. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I think so, but what's happening is I get a lot of food because we got the full share and it's just the 2 of us. So now I'm using the greens. So when we get beets, I'm using the greens. When we get turnips, I'm using the greens, all of it. So I'm forced to use all of this food and not waste. That's my challenge to myself, not wasting a thing, all of it. Yes, there's a little bit of stress. Yes, there's a little bit of there's overwork in there. However, the pleasure and the enjoyment from playing with all of this abundance and food is also freeing me up from going to the grocery store and buying the same damn thing for 5 times the price, maybe not even as nutritious, because I know where this is coming from and I know how it was cultivated. I don't know where that stuff was cultivated. So it's like all this type, and I'm realizing I have more fun in the kitchen than I've ever had. I don't cook, actually. I bake, but I don't cook. Now I'm cooking, and I'm realizing I don't need all the stuff that I needed. And I don't, it's just interesting just to be in overwork in that regard and watch what I like, what brings me pleasure, what doesn't, what I don't, and what, so.
Yeah, because there is a danger of that when you're in overwork, you start counting pleasurable things as work because you're stressed.
Yeah.
Because like if I go out with my friends, and I did on Saturday, and I had a lovely day, but then when I get back, this comes back because there's all this other stuff I didn't do because I was out with my friends, and it's like, it's sort of like it's almost like I need to have a word with myself about it's okay to get tired. Tired does not mean that you're stressed.
Yeah.
Like doing social things is also tiring, but if you're in overwork, everything you do makes you tired, and then you feel stressed about it, and it's just a cycle of stressiness.
Yeah.
No, cooking that I'm doing at the moment, I have to leave an hour for it because it takes so that what I'll do, actually thinking of the recipe, is I'll take a picture of it and post it on Facebook, and then we can mention it in the comments, because then she'll get her credit. It's actually, it's a really nice book.
Oh, good. Oh yeah, no, I would take a picture. Yeah, however you want to do it. Yeah.
I'll put text in the notes. You can't put pictures in this.
No, but you could link to the book and say the recipe is this, it's in this book, page blah. You could do that. That would be cool. I could check it out from the library. I get my cookbooks from the library, which is kind of fun too. So anyway.
Actually, just because I see Gary actually said to me, this is not worthy. He says, you seem to be buying an awful lot for somebody that doesn't have any money. And because I'm spending 20 quid on this padlock thing so that I can lock my keys on the car rather than take it with me. Because if you go to, as I told you, we were up the Trossachs, which sounds like a naughty film, up where the lochs are. And I have my keys in my tow float, which is a bag you take out when you're wild swimming. And I actually dropped my tow float and it fell in the water. And I managed to get down and round and pick again. But I realised that actually it's not a good place to leave your keys, really.
Yeah.
So I've been worrying about saving money. I've probably only spent 100 quid, but it's a fact that I'm buying stuff all the time. And every time I look, there's more that I could have. And they're all stupid little things. Have you got Temu? Do you guys have Temu? Oh my God.
I see the ads for that all the time. And I close it. I close it every single time.
But I can't Google anything without Temu being the first thing that comes up. Like they must be spending billions on advertising.
Yeah. And for stuff that looks like inexpensive.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, chicken feeder I looked up and Temu came out and I just couldn't work out the picture. So I just visited just to try and see, couldn't work out the picture. But you can't even enlarge the picture. And I was thinking, I have no idea what I'm buying, but it's only like 79p, maybe I should buy it anyway. That is the epitome of consumerism, isn't it?
Yes. 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 And they know this. They, being me in my former life of advertising, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very effective.
It is. I know. Yeah. So I know, sorry, we're probably moving off topic and we probably need to wrap up so that we're not keeping everybody, which is also a feeling of not worthy. Don't want to keep you all.
Dare we? It
is.
So for both of us, actually, I think the unworthy definitely leads to overwork. I'm not saying it's the only thing. It's not my biggest one, but it's up there.
Yeah, it's my biggest one. I think Not Lovable was your biggest one, right? But Not Worthy for me is.
Well, not good enough historically. Well, it all gets quite complicated because my not good enough, followed by my not worthy, are both actually workarounds for being unlovable.
Yeah.
But my not good enough. Well, no, actually it's pretty strong, certainly with Overwork. Not worthy is pretty strong because of the need to prove my productiveness.
Yeah. And next week we talk about not good enough as the negative belief that fuels our overworking, right? So we'll get into it even more next week. But can I say, like, we would love to hear from everybody on what your thoughts are on overwork. How does it kick in your feelings of feeling not worthy? How does it even from last week, how does it kick in your feelings of not lovable? And if you have thoughts on how it kicks in your feelings of not good enough, go ahead and share in the comments and chat below. We would love to hear from you. If you would please subscribe to this channel. As you know, we're trying to grow our subscribers and we're getting close to 100. So if you can help us, that would be really good. That way other people can find us and subscribe as well. You can hit the little bell to get notifications of when we have a new episode, which is every Friday. So let's see. I think with that, I'm Julie Hirt. With me as always is Kate Fago. This is Making Light Two Humans Being, and we will see you next week. And thank you so much for being here today. See you soon.